Hi, this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I am Siofra Bradigan. So today I wanted to talk to you about ghosts, spirits, things that go bump in the night. I've been reading online, quite a few new witches seem to get into a situation where they suddenly have some type of spirit activity going on in their environment. And so I thought I would share with you what I've figured out how to create a ghost-free zone in my own house. I don't get bothered by people of a human kind who aren't alive wandering through my house in the middle of the night asking for help. So first, to talk about the subject, I want to talk about natural authority. And that is the core of all of this, all of the techniques that you use, not just for this particular process, but for pretty much every process that has to do with magic. So natural authority is the idea that because you are a human being and you are composed of all five elements and you are alive, that this gives you the ability to tell other things that aren't alive what to do and what's okay and what's not okay. I'm not sure exactly how to translate that into any other phrase besides the natural authority, but I discovered I had this the first time I encountered something that was not normal, I guess. And that was when my brother came to me for help for his paper route. And I was attacked by an entire group of shadow things, for want of a better term. And they descended down upon me and started to make me feel like I was going to throw up. It was sort of overwhelming. And I got angry, which is actually not a bad response to this kind of a situation. And I yelled at them, and I told them in no uncertain terms they better leave me and my brother alone, or I would come back and they would be sorry. And they immediately left. When that happened, I knew that if I said something, they had to do it or else. And when you're first starting out, it's difficult to believe that you have that ability for some people. But if you know it in your core, if you believe it, that they need to do what you tell them to, then they will do what you tell them to. So, first off, if you have something in your house and you're pretty confident that it's a human spirit of some kind, generally speaking, what I like to do is figure out why they're stuck. If it's a human ghost kind of phenomenon, then that means that something has gone wrong with the after-death process. Normal process of death is your body dies, that death opens up a portal between the worlds, your spirit rises up into that portal, which people like to describe as a bright light, a white light, various things of that nature. And then you translate from a physical reality where we are into a purely spirit realm where you go through your after-death processes. So if something has gone wrong and for whatever reason the person dies and misses that window of opportunity to cross over, then you have yourself a ghost, a stuck presence of one kind. So a lot of times when a sensitive and someone who's learning how to work with magic and has natural gifts is definitely usually a sensitive, moves into a location where there happens to be a ghost, for example, then those spirits that exist on that other plane, they don't see things the way we do. To go back a little bit there, for a spirit being not having physical eyes, not having physical ears, not having a physical mouth, all those things are gone. What they experience around themselves can best be described as sort of a grayness. It's kind of like a monotone gray color from what I've seen. And within that grayness, if they see something that looks like a light, then they're attracted to it and they want to go to that light because they missed the original light that they were supposed to traverse and go up, go to the other side with. And people who are clairvoyant, empathic in some cases, we have that light in us. It's sort of a natural part of our being because we're seeing things on the other side. Like for me, I see lots of different kinds of spirit beings, not just ghosts. And so a ghost can see me. I show up like a lighthouse. It's like a light in the dark. And when they see that, the first thing they want to do, like I said, is to go towards that light. They're naturally attracted to it like a moth to a flame. It's like, there's something here, I can see it, it's not like everything else, I want to look at it. And this is the reason why people generally have their encounters with spirits at night in bed when they're asleep, because they're laying down, they're in one place, they're not moving around, they're, still and quiet, they're not distracted by watching a TV show, having conversations with their friends or whatever. And so this is when a ghost can approach that light and get a better look at it and see it. This happens fairly often with children who are natural clairvoyants, and learning how to deal with that and protect your kids from having to have too much of this activity when they're trying to sleep in their own bed is a good thing to know how to do. So now you know why they find you. If you're one of those people, you know what I'm talking about. Wherever you go, you may sense spirits or feel things from people that aren't there anymore and that kind of stuff. So you're one of those people, you live in a house, your light is shining bright, you don't have a circle of protection around your property, you're just starting out, you're just figuring these things out for yourself, and a ghost in the neighborhood suddenly sees your light and comes into your house and wants to have a chat. Now, considering the fact that they can't communicate the same way that we do, in attempts to get your attention can often be misunderstood by people as being annoying or aggressive or obnoxious or any various other types of things. For example, they might start knocking things over because it makes you look and they're trying to get your attention. Sometimes they invade your dreams, because when you're asleep and your spirit is in and out of your body and you're partially in the astral realm, is an opportunity for something that exists only in that space to interact with you. Sometimes they're frustrated and people have nightmares, or they feel anger coming at them, and most of the time this isn't a malevolent kind of thing. It's like, imagine if you were stuck in a gray box and no one could hear you when you spoke to them, how frustrating it might be for you to try and figure out what's going on, where things were, who people were, what was happening, where could you go, how could you get help. And then you can sort of get a grasp of why it could appear to us as if there's some kind of like, an obnoxious trickster kind of spirit or an angry ghost or whatever. Most of the ones I've encountered, when they're angry because no one has heard them, and they're frustrated. They're angry because they don't want to be dead. They want to accept the fact that they're dead. So there's a variety of potential human emotions there that can span the limited amount of activity that they can generate, the energy that they can muster in order to get your attention. So of course, normal things to watch for to see if you've got that kind of activity is cold spots, because they drain the energy out of the heat in the air, as and whispers, knocking things over, like I said previously, and that kind of stuff. So there's several different things that you can do if you think you have a ghost in your house. You can call someone who has more experience, who may be able to communicate more completely with the entity and find out why it's there and what its issue is. If you're sensitive enough, you might be able to find that information out for yourself. You can, if you don't know how to open up the portal between the worlds, which is sort of a specialized skill, I came up with a method that people can try. I'd like to find out how well it works. I don't know yet, because I just sort of came up with the idea of lighting a white candle, writing something on the candle if you want to, like peace, but you don't have to write anything on the candle. And then talk to the spirit as if it was sitting there in the room with you. And tell it, I think that you're stuck. I'm not sure why you're stuck, but I'm going to light this candles and I'm going to let you see this light on the other side. And I'm going to ask any spirits, guardians, your higher selves, whatever, your loved ones who've passed over before you, to come to this side of the light and help open up a portal and guide you through to the other side so that you can continue on with your journey. Some people don't mind the idea of living with ghosts, and that's okay. I mean, it's all right. You've got yourself an invisible friend. But the way I see that, it's the person, the spirit of that person has gotten themselves stuck in a position where they can't complete a process that's natural. And if I can help them complete that process, then I feel I'm doing something good, that I'm helping and assisting with them. So that would be one method. Another method is to just tell them, hey, if you're going to live here, we have some ground rules. You have to set up boundaries, just like you would with your animals or your children or your housemates or whoever it is you're living with. If you're not the kind of person who just sort of lets anybody come into your room at 3 o'clock in the morning and throw a bucket of cold water on your face to wake you up and say, hey, let's have a chat, then you need to set some ground rules and tell them, okay, I'll talk to you when I'm ready to talk to you, or you can stay here so long as you don't bother me, or you're scaring my children, they don't understand, you need to stop doing that behavior, or you need to leave this space altogether. And so you have to, this is where that power of a natural authority comes in. If you state what the rules are, they have to follow them. So if you say, this is what you can't do, then they can't do that. You need to know that inside your body and in your heart and in your mind that this is the case. So let's say you're just an extremely sensitive individual, you've moved into a house, you don't know if there's anything there, but you want to do some preemptive cleansing and setting up boundaries to keep anything from actually coming in and bothering you, because you need your space, you need your quiet, you need to be able to meditate and not be bothered. So if I'm called into a house that has some kind of activity like that, the first thing I do is a general banishing. Now, banishings can be done in several different ways. A simple method is for the person whose home it is. Now, that doesn't mean they have to own the house, but they're living in the house and it's their space. I usually have them take a broom and start at the front door. So you have to have a place to start and finish so you know you have it all. And then take the broom through every room and sweep it counterclockwise in every room. And there's a lot of negative energy actually accumulated in this space. You can get confused. I've had that happen in a couple of houses that I've cleansed, and I'll suddenly check in and discover I'm going in the opposite direction than I want to. And then you just sort of start over again and keep on doing that. And you go throughout the whole house with the broom, thinking about the idea of sweeping out any negative energy that's accumulated in the space. And then when you get back to the front door, you open up the front door and you sweep it out. This is a tradition that is commonplace in almost every culture. The idea of being in charge of your space and cleaning your space, not just physically but psychically. And so it has a lot of power behind it because of the fact that it is such a known technique and used in so many places, in so many different times, by so many different people. So that would be part of a method to do that. If you have more than just one person, then you can get into some other things like banging pots and pans, ringing bells, yelling loudly, saying, all negative energy, get out, get out, get out, and go the same, with the person with the broom. Or if you already have your tools, you can use and a wand, or you can use sage, which seems to be one of the most popular things that people do for banishing negative energy. And with sage, you should know that it doesn't have to be white sage or special sage. It can be sage from your garden. It can be sage that you bought as a condiment at the grocery store. It's the intent that you put behind burning the sage, and knowing that it's going to clean or chase out negative energy and get that out the door. So same idea, you do that all together depending on how many of you there are. So now that you've cleaned your space, you want to seal it up and then fill it with positive energy. Because if you just clean a space and tell all the negative energy to leave, and then you don't follow up with something else, then the first person who walks in the door, or the first time you open the door, any energy that's out there can just be sucked straight back into your environment, because you haven't replaced it with something else. It's like you've created a vacuum that's sort of ready for whatever happens next. So if the goal is not just to cleanse your space and get rid of negative energy, but to actually seal your space up, there's a ritual that I use, and very effectively so, that I got from Starhawk's book, The Spiral Dance. And in that case, again, you're starting at the front door to do it all the way around, but you're going to be using the invoking pentagram of earth and charged salt and water and some kind of a positive incense like sweetgrass or church incense, or something with a pleasing fragrance that's not sage, not specifically to get rid of negativity, because what you're doing is you're going to be filling your space up with positive energy. So I'm going to do this in a way that it will look the right way for you, so you don't have to try and translate it in your head. So the invoking pentagram of the earth, start at the spirit point, and then you go down to the earth point to sort of get acquainted with the earth energy, and then you pull the energy up out of the earth zone, and then you complete your pentagram. Then you go around clockwise and around in a circle, and then you can imagine that it's attached to the palm of your hand. So you've got the center of the pentagram in the palm of your hand. At this point, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can pull the earth energy through you and into the room where you are before you place that earth pentagram where you need it to be. But you're going to be using this throughout this entire exercise. So this is the one that we use for this particular purpose. When you're drawing that pentagram, you want to not just draw it like with your finger or your athame with your wand or what have you, but you want to visualize coming out of your finger a blue-white light, which is the easiest thing for spirits to see. We talked about how everything over there is gray and kind of like, homogeneous, that's it, monotone, homogeneous kind of thing. And so if you imagine that coming out of your finger or your tool, there's a bright blue-white light. When you draw it, you're going to inscribe that in the air and try and see that pentagram being all nice and lit up with your finger as you draw it through the air. And now you've got something that the spirits can see, and this is also a symbol that the spirits recognize as having authority to tell them where they can and cannot go. So that's the thing you're going to use. Now here's how you do it. You start off at the front door again, but this time you're going to go clockwise instead of counterclockwise. And as you go through the house, you're going to put one of these pentagrams at every window, every outside corner, or if you're in an apartment, you want to do any corner that shares space with another apartment. Every window, every mirror that you might have, because mirrors are doorways to the other side, and you want to seal them up so they're not flying through the mirror to come into your house. And then every water inlet and outlet. So faucets, sink drains, shower heads, built-in dishwashers, built-in ice makers in the freezer of a refrigerator if you have one. Think about all the different places. At the washing machine and dryer, you've got the inlet as well as the outflow that you want to do, and if you have a special sink in there, you're going to do that as well. And so it's important to be focused on what you're doing the whole time you're doing it. You're also going to want to have that incense in that charged salt water. This is easier to do with more than one person. 2 people can do it pretty well. And so you can have somebody holding the charged salt water. If you don't know how to charge up your salt water, look it up. It's not that difficult. It's sort of one of our basic things. And you're going to have somebody sprinkle the salt water after you put the pentagram on there. You sprinkle the salt water and then waft the incense or whatever other kinds of that kind of thing that you have. And the words that we use, that Starhawk had in her book and that I use, is now I have to think for a second. Water and air draw all for this fair. Okay, earth and sea of ill stay free. Fire and air draw all that is fair. Round and round the circle is bound. So earth and sea of ill stay free. Fire and air draw all that is fair. Round and round the circle is bound. So what you have there, the salt in the water is the earth and the sea, because salt is the element of earth. And then the lit incense is the fire and the air, because the smoke wafts through and activates the air element. So you have all 4 elements, and then you've got that earth pentagram that you're putting in there to put that sign or symbol on the other side, so that when spirits come wandering around your house, and this will work for all different kinds of spirits, they'll see that your house is surrounded, as it were, by these pentagrams, and you've made it perfectly clear your desire to be left alone. So they will leave you alone unless you specifically invite them. If you live in an apartment building, you're going to want to do the ceiling and the floor if you have someone living above you or someone living below you, in order to make sure that all bases are covered. So it's a relatively straightforward process, but it can take a lot of time, especially in a bathroom. Bathrooms are always so much fun. And you'll find as you practice this and do it that it gets easier. And even every so often when I've done one of these, I've gone out into the other planes to look at the property I've just sealed, and I can see the pentagrams. So I know that they're there. And so anyway, that's probably enough information about this for the first video on the subject. And I would really love to have your questions and things you want to know more about, or issues you might be having in your own environment that you need assistance in clearing out. And I can come up with some other ideas that might be able to work for you in your situation. So anyway, this is Siofra Bradigan, and this is Siofra's Magic Alcove. Blessed be.